I'm Jenny from the selfdirectedlearner.org, and this is a continuation of our conversations with some pretty extraordinary people who have redefined the concept of success. And what we're looking at are people who have successfully created a job, not just for themselves, but a job for others. And today I'm joined by Pom Cayeiro from North Beach Iyengar Yoga Center. Pom, welcome and thank you.
Thank you, Jenny.
So you have to begin by telling us, where are you? Are you on North Beach, Miami?
Well, actually, our name, the center is called Miami Beach Iyengar Yoga Center. And right now where I'm sitting actually is in Phuket, Thailand. And I'm visiting my family. But since the COVID time, we have to be in the island it's not quite like quarantine, but because for vaccinate tourists to come before we travel to Thailand, to my hometown. So 15 days. So we are here.
So what does a Thai citizen trained as a physical therapist, what's her journey going to Miami Beach to set up the co-ownership of an Iyengar Yoga Center? How did that happen?
Well, first of all, me and my husband, we met, Enrique Cayeiro. We met in Miami, in Naples, in Florida. So when I was exchange program of physical therapy around 17 years ago. So we met as a friend, and then he introduced me to yoga, actually, for the holistic well-being. So he said, why don't you try yoga? And then so we practice, and then we friend for a long time. Then he moved to Thailand, we get married, then we went to India. That's how everything began there, from the journey of the yoga practice. So that's how we cooperate as we start as a student for many years, for almost like 8-10 years. And then since we are the local in our neighborhood in Miami Beach, is called Normandy in Miami Beach. So we say, why don't we start our community so that we open the yoga center? Yeah.
That's an extraordinary story. And Pom, speaking of, tell us a little bit about Iyengar. Why did you choose the style of Iyengar yoga?
Well, yoga have so many variety of technique of guru that bringing the knowledge of the purpose of freedom and liberation, and help people to learn to still the consciousness, to able to feel peace from within you. So Iyengar, BKS Iyengar, so that's the name, Mr. Iyengar. He studied in the traditional way in the Hatha Yoga and Yoga of Patanjali. But at that time, the history that he quite ill, because back then in India, he has so many illness. So then he said, well, I cannot practice in the same way of very athletic practice. So he started using the props and intelligence of awareness, that certain posture that bring strength, mobility, and awareness, that you cannot do certain poses, how we can practice to receive the benefit and nourishing our body, our mind, our soul. So that's how I begin, because I practice physical therapy as professionally. And from then on, and I see so many patients from a different perspective of pain, lower back pain, neck pain, shoulder pain, or even respiratory system. And we see that maybe it's beyond the physical part that I see. So that's how my journey began, that because physical therapy, we take it very scientific way, assessment, treatment, healing, which is great because it's very knowledge through the practice in science. But then with the yoga practice, that what I found is it's go beyond that. Like I see the patient, let's say you have neck pain, why the neck is get released, but it's keep coming back. So it's more source of the problem that we don't see. So that's come into the part of mental, emotional, and it's a deeper part than physical. So that's how I approach in the Iyengar yoga, and it's accessible for everyone. Yeah.
And Pom, you mentioned that you and Enrique started out as students, but from what the research I've done is that you consistently see yourself as a learner as much as you see yourself as a teacher. And in fact, you often acknowledge your teachers, the people that have imparted wisdom. You often acknowledge them by name, and you honor them. So speak to that, because that's not typical of what most people do in terms of honoring those who have imparted their wisdom to them.
Well, first of all of us in the community, we start as a friend practitioner, so, and when we practice the same path, that the interest, that's why we draw us to get to know each other, because the subject of yoga practice, Iyengar yoga practice. So when they begin to teach, so which is in the part of the team, so that we share a lot of knowledge through the practice. So as far as I acknowledge with the name, because a lot of things that I want to actually recognize that authenticity, who they are. For example, can I give example? Dr. Karn, yeah, Jenny know him as well. He is Indian retired doctor and a medical doctor, but he practiced yoga for 30 years, for 40 years. And then I found that a lot of time, he teaching me something without teaching. Means it's not his class, but he's sharing something that is such a very interesting and important of the practice. And I took it as a practice myself. So I recognize it that in such a way that who actually passed on to me, so that I say who coming from, which is Dr. Karn, or while I'm teaching or other teachers working with me. I think it's very important to acknowledge that they are a very dedicated teacher. So it's built trust in the student to see that the person that they can take classes with, that they really feel safe and trust in their teaching. Even though some of them in the training, like internship, but they learn so much and they're very knowledgeable that when, for example, right now I have Rosa at the studio, right? So she's internship, and she's taking care of a few students that working with me for a while to follow up. And from that, the student really give me a feedback that she's really helpful and she's very knowledgeable. And I think from that perspective, that I acknowledge no matter what level of teaching they are, it's something the student can learn from them. So that's my point, I think.
Well, trust is a just a really key and deep part of who we are. What would you say is the essence of enhancing your own practice?
As a yoga practitioner, we all a seeker. We are practitioner. In Sanskrit, actually called sadhaka. Sadhaka means the seeker, the practitioner that seek for liberation. I think through my practice that we learning from the teacher, our teacher, right? Every yoga student must have teacher. I have guru, I have teacher that pass on the knowledge. And from that practice, then I take it through myself. But as a practitioner wise, that how much you learn from your teacher, you have to absorb. then the part of exploration, I think that's what the most to make me more learning, keep learning through my own practice, which is the foundation from our teacher. But seeking, exploration, experiment is the very important, essential to practice and pass on the knowledge to the student. Yeah.
And Pom, you often speak to your own growth and the growth in the yoga teachers that you mentor, that the key is observation, that you're always looking with your eyes to see what you observe. So how does that sense of seeing, the visual, how does that play into your teaching?
Well, the eyes is very important. It's many other senses, right? But the very first one that as a teacher, that when we see through the expression from physical, through their breath, you can hear the sound of their breath. Zoom, you cannot hear that much. But because the sensation that what I observed from before for many years, you can have the sense how the student responds, or when they walk in and they sit on their mat, you can see how their posture represent. So that's, I think, the observation before the practice is very important. And that's give me a feedback as well, how I plan the session. Because, you know, every day is different. The situation in life is different. The situation in the world, I think COVID is really give us in the most present that you ever can experience it. It sounds romanticized, like for someone like, oh, we have to be present, you know, while some people might be very struggling. But from the clarity that we have, if you don't have clarity, you have to make it happen, you know? So through the practice of the breath, the practice of be present, so that from then on, the clarity can come to you. You can ask for the clarity. So as a yoga teacher, observation of student to see the state of where they at in physical level. They can give you a gesture too. For example, I see sometime when I about to start a class and I see the student do this, I can already tell they bother with their neck. So from my knowledge that I study both PT and the yoga, if you begin the practice and start moving the spine represents the mind. If your spine unsteady and elongate, your mind cannot stay still. So I mentioned to the student that sit upright, roll the shoulders back, keep the shoulder released down and lengthen the side of the neck, so they have room of the space of each the spine, so that the mind can be quiet. So you don't need to move so many directions, because actually it set up the spine to get the elongate. So the neck have space without trying to, like, you know, massage or soreness. So that actually is the very first, it's called Bhagavad Gita, is the knowledge of the practitioner to bring clarity. Is a story, but very first one that he mentioned, the yogi have to learn to sit still. And that word sit still, you can spend all your life to learn. You know, it's not just the technique, but it's physical level, mental level, emotional level. Then the spirit, you can enter the deep core. Yeah. It sounds long translation. From observation, you know, so from the observation.
Well, and Pom, you've commented in the past that you don't do drama.
Yeah. I mean, as working as a team, relationship, family, all this, we try.
So, I mean, you run the Miami Beach Iyengar Yoga Center. You run it as a business.
Yes.
And you have created this very successful business, both you and your husband, and you created it for both yourselves, and you created it for other teachers of yoga as well.
Maybe he come say hi. Enrique sit right over there. Enrique, you want to come say hi? So yeah.
Talk to us about, because the reality is it is a business. Hi, Enrique. So it's a business that you have both created.
Well, first of all, I have to tell you this, Jenny. I didn't start to create business, but in accordingly of the American government, right? U.S. government, we have to file the paper as a business. And actually, they tell us to file as a school, you know, the yoga school, because it's category of the business. So I say, okay, I didn't know about tax. I didn't know about the whole system, but then you have to, you know, put category there. And you mentioned about the word drama that I'm saying. To make it simple, I guess it's negativity, negative emotion that I don't want to bring it into the corporate practice together as a business wise, as a friends, as relationship. So because from my observation, negative brought a bad vibration. And when the bad vibration come, it's really hard to bring clarity. And I always go back, Jenny, to the word clarity. If you see the ocean behind me, I don't know if you're able to see.
Yes.
Right? This is the reflection of clarity in the consciousness. The water is so calm. You can hear the wind a little bit, but it's very soothing. This is the monsoon season, and you can see sometimes it's so much rain, sometimes it's like wind, but almost every morning that I'm here, because it's nature, right? It's a season. But most of every morning, this is what I receive. That's why I woke up like 5:30 to get myself ready. At 6 a.m. I'm here to see the sunrise if don't rain. Because when you be with nature and witness the tranquility and is absorbing with a very positive vibration, Mother Nature heal without teaching you even one word. Right? You love hiking, so I know. And from that, so that's what I feel that with the I can apply to every aspect of our life through the business practice. I have a team to practice yoga and also teacher. So if we have any argument that not agree to each other for a certain thing, we sit down and say, let's talk about it. Let's be clear and not take it personal, which is full agreement that in my team, we all agree that we're going to work with this path. Full agreement. I'm sure you heard about this book. I think his name Miguel. The very first one is impeccable of your work, that you really meaning what you say in the very integrity way, with kindness. You know, you don't try to yell, you know, those things is integrity, impeccable of your word. Don't make assumption. Don't assume, because this is how the mind work, right? You see something, you hear something, we translate in a different way. So I myself too, I'm not always success. It's like I assume some certain thing and it's not quite a positive way. So we have to sit down and communicate. And then, so I'm not make assumption, you know. The third one is don't take things personal because it's not from you. Some person that working with us, you don't know what they go through. So that is like, it's not about you, but they go through so many things. That's why the action came out. So don't take things personal. And the last one is do your best.
And Pom, maybe it's because of what you've shared now. You've created something really exceptional. You've created a deeply connected community. And it really is a testament to you and Enrique that you can, you can go home to Thailand and know that that deeply connected community that you've established in Miami is continuing. But the other thing that's happened is because of the Zoom opportunities now, is your community has expanded. It's become much more of a global community. And
Totally.
yeah, yeah. And Pom, there's something else that's really quite remarkable, and that is that you have established a business. Yes, you didn't plan to, but yes, because thanks to the US government, you have established a business. And in that business, you decided to rent space for the yoga center.
Yeah.
And that space, you've not used that space, certainly during COVID times. And that space has a very limited use right now. But you've chosen to continue to maintain that space at tremendous expense. Even though the majority of your business doesn't come from practicing yoga at that space, the majority of your business now comes from doing privates, going to people's homes and doing private yoga classes. So talk to us a little bit about the evolution from the business perspective.
Well, first of all, Jenny, you've been there since very beginning. You even helped me paint and clean up a hurricane, all this. You see the wall, you see the garden. I felt Enrique and I create the separate space that not at your house, not at my home, to be in the place that is not that far either. It's like 5 minutes away, bike. And the space is become such a sacred place for us and for a lot of us. The sacred place means when you enter, you leave everything behind, but you entering that space in the very purposeful awareness. And for me, when I enter, either I'm practicing or I'm teaching, is a gathering of energy. And that energy, individual energy and community energy. So, and I believe, as I mentioned, I believe in vibration. And when each of us bring the vibration there in the very harmony way, the space is become like a home for all of us, for all the teacher, for all the student, that even though they might not enter there that often because the limit time and limit space or people travel, but it's become a symbolic, and I'm not saying I'm attached to the particular space. We can move anywhere, but at the moment that we can afford that creating space there, that I can expand a business route, right? Do I call route? That can maintain the space in such a way that when I go back, I still have the space that practice and teaching private and teaching classes, but as like a home base for all of us. For example, before, a very simple business, you open the yoga studio, people come in, pay the membership, pay classes, you teach class and leave. But for me at the moment is like the home base there, and we create a different way how to create. For example, right now we have a few options for students. Number one is Zoom, right? Number two is Zoom at the yoga center, because some students cannot do at home. They have kids, they have life, don't have space. So Rosa, and we have a TV projector there so that they can enter, and Zoom and person. So the teacher, some teacher is there, some teacher is here in Thailand. So and as a team, we're working together. And I'm sending the teachers to private as well, because some students not able to travel. They're busy, they're working, so they have a limit of time that they prefer the teacher come to their home. So that's from the center, that we work together. Also we travel. I used to travel as well, like Switzerland, Italy, and all the retreat. So we do a few of that. Not the main, as I don't want to use the word at the main business wise, because some people do, means like they have 3-4 times a year of a schedule of retreat. I'm not quite interested. I think once in a while is great, but the routine practice as a activity, daily living, is the most important. Because sometimes you can take the trip to different places and then rejuvenate, like what I'm doing now. That's, I feel like 4 days, 5 days, I'm totally rejuvenating. And I didn't realize how much COVID take our energy. Even though I feel it's pretty good, pretty chill, but I can feel it's releasing the toxin, physical, emotional wise, into it. So our space that we rent is so worth it, that no matter what kind of income that coming from whose house, or Zoom, it's, I've cut after all the expenses, it's totally worth it to keep. So that's why how we maintain. Some studio, they already closed because they don't want to put the money into these expenses. But for me, for a long time of COVID, it's called optimistic, right?
Yes.
I believe we all gonna go through and pass it in the way that gets stronger. I think it's already gets stronger. The community from all over the world, we care for each other. When we didn't see certain a few students in the screen, and say, oh, are they okay? Hope everything's fine with them. So it's become and I spoke with one of the acupuncture who's a student, Sandra. She's like, we have a class at 7:30 a.m. and I thought no one gonna wake up, to do the practice. It's pranayama. And then so I put it out there, and they show up for a year and a half consistently. And she said to me, I don't know what, but it's just draw us all together.
Yeah.
And like Kristen live in Chicago. I don't know her, but I feel like I know her for a long time, So it was so interesting how the student interact, or like in Facebook, Instagram, that student know each other through class and say, oh, we hope you come one day to Miami. It's become like a family, and they interact to each other, they exchange the number or like information to help each other. So it's very wonderful.
Yeah. It truly is very wonderful. And what you've described is your ability to constantly retool and rethink. But it doesn't come from the business model. It comes from what you believe deep inside of you. And that's just very, very special. So Pom, just one last question. If someone was to come to you and say, I want to open up a yoga center, like what wisdom would you offer them?
That's a good question. Love it, what you do, and learn every second of it. You would not deplete. If you love what you're doing, you can wake up in the morning happy. Like yesterday I told Enrique, after I practice, I go work out, and then actually I woke up 5 a.m. to teach 5:30 a.m. class, which is in the evening in Miami. But I just love it. I get good to see people, and I feel like it's such a deep connection. And this is 5:30 your time, right? I love it. And then when I finish, I come do my practice, I work out, I go to the pool. And the pool is infinity pool. It's very interesting because you see the sun. And I just lay down there and I say, wow, this is the part of success. It's not about how much money in the bank account that you gain, right? It's
Right.
not about how much wealth in the material you gain, but you wake up in the morning, you breathe deeply, you love it, what you're doing, and helping people, and learn. Every time I learn from the student, I felt like I always constant learning. So I never deplete. I told all my team, when you're talking about, oh, I'm teaching yoga, I'm teaching classes, I'm teaching private, so much schedule. And I told them, look, when you see the schedule and you see your capacity to help people, 1 or 2 class, 3 or 4 class, or less, you have to very measure how energy you can put in. And this student, you receives the energy back. It's like a circle, Jenny. It's like circle. You would never deplete it. You're just loving it, you know. But whenever I feel that it's too much, you have to learn to say no, you know. So that's what I see, that I was actually, I don't want to say the word positive or negative, because I always turn negative to be positive.
Yes.
That someone explained to me and say, oh, you're going to open yoga studio, you're going to have headache, you're going to have so much responsibility, you cannot travel, you cannot go to see your family, you're going to have so much depression and stress. This is someone said to me. And I say, okay. I take a breath, because it's something unknown to me, right? I ask you back, because now you ask me, this is 7 years after, and I prove actually the person that giving me that sentences, warning me, and actually it's a good thing, because they're warning me that it might possibly happen. So what I can do to prevent for those happening. So that means you have to come with the clarity. You have to measure your energy. So how I can travel? You have to manage your life, you know. So then 7 years later, I'm actually, thank you that person to say to me, because I proved that I'm okay. I'm okay with it. And the student actually give me the feedback that only my smiling that I don't even teach yet, it's changed everything. So that's why I say, if you're going to open the yoga studio, you have to do from the bottom of your heart that you loving it. When obstacle always going to come, challenging always going to come, challenging, welcome them. Just like the yoga practice, you can't stand on your head, you can't stand on your shoulder. The wind going to plop you down, or you're tired. You have to measure it, and challenge going to come. Don't get scared. Be present and facing with step by step. So that's why I'm teaching yoga. I apply yoga in my life. That's what the purpose of yoga. That's what Guruji's explained. Mr. Iyengar explained why he not went to Himalayan mountain to just meditate, be a yogi, and left his family. He's like, no, I'm going to practice and teaching and feed my family and be as a family man, as a normal human being, that you see the yoga can be part of your life. And that's what I continue from his lineage. So now we're here.
And, you know, Pom, I don't think I've heard it more succinctly. Be open to loving what you do, learning from what you do, and welcome the challenges. And that's what you've done. So thank you enormously. This has just been absolutely spectacular. And namaste to you, Enrique. You're an inspiration to all of us.
Thank you.